Things are certainly getting pretty freaking stressful. Tariffs are absolutely destroying our economy. There's nothing really that Canada can do about it, even though, politicians and leaders keep saying they are going to do something about it. Now you also have internal polling that shows Mark Carney and other Canadian politicians want to actually sell us to Europe to join the European Union, which is technically impossible. It's actually more realistic to become the 51st state of America than it is to join the European Union. And also, ew, gross. Why would anyone want to join the European Union? You also have volcanoes in Russia exploding and the threat of nuclear war. So yeah, definitely not a stress-free type of video, that's for sure. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I really want to encourage you all to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel. And we got to talk about suppression of media, suppression of free speech, all of that stuff. And the best way to do that is actually today's sponsor. This video is brought to you by today's sponsor, Private Internet Access. If you're fed up with government censorship and the government tracking and then selling your data, well, boy, oh boy, do I have a fix for you. Private Internet Access, my go-to VPN, is the best way to cloak yourself so that you can browse the internet anonymously. Also unlocks a whole bunch of censored news here in Canada, which is the Liberals' quota. In addition to that, when you have Hulu, Netflix, Disney Plus, it allows you to access content that is restricted by this country. So you can use American Netflix, French Netflix, Italian Netflix, whatever it is that you want. There are so many benefits to Private Internet Access, but my favorite is the fact that it works on so many different devices. One subscription protects unlimited amount of devices at the same time. You can also change your IP address to more than 91 countries around the world. If you use my link down below in the description or the pinned comment below, you'll get 83% off Private Internet Access today. Alternatively, you could go to piavpn.com/sunshine to get the exact same discount. Thank you, Private Internet Access, for sponsoring today's video. Without further ado, let's take a look at something that is totally not stressful: nuclear warfare, because Trump did just send a couple nuclear submarines to Russia to monitor the situation. Now, nuclear submarines means they are powered by nuclear energy, but they could also hold nuclear weapons. Or maybe not. Maybe so, maybe not. Let's take a look.
I could begin with just getting your general assessment of what the heck is going on here, because Medvedev and Trump have been going back and forth on social media, one accusing the other of placing ultimatums, the other one saying, be careful with your words. Words can lead to consequences. And now we've got these two subs headed to an undisclosed location. And President Trump is describing the motive for that as a threat coming from Russia. What's your assessment of what's happening here?
I think we can see this mostly as overheated rhetoric, two hotheads going after each other. Medvedev, after Trump said he's shortening the timeline for hitting Russia with new sanctions, accusing the United States of escalating, of ramping up. Trump responds, Medvedev responds, he mentions nuclear weapons, and then Trump says, well, if you want to play that game, I'm going to send some nuclear submarines closer to your shores. It is somewhat, I think, irresponsible for either side to talk about nuclear weapons at a time when there was a full-scale war going on in Ukraine, but it really is a sign of just how much has changed over the last few months. A few months ago, Trump was throwing Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, out of the Oval Office and blaming Ukraine for the war. Now he's threatening to move nuclear subs closer to the Russian landmass.
So, sir, if it is a couple of hotheads and a lot of bluster at this point, and at this stage we don't know if those two subs are powered by nuclear power or they're
both
capable of having nuclear missiles.
Yeah, so they're powered by nuclear, but yes, they very much are likely. Come on, you'd have to be a simpleton to think that Trump is sending powered by nuclear subs only to monitor the situation with Russia, to basically flex nuclear capabilities. Of course, they have nuclear capabilities. Absolutely, because we don't know what the hell Russia is planning right now, and for their ex-president to be saying shit like that, yeah, you have to take appropriate measures. Absolutely.
Should the world be worried? I mean, how seriously do we take this?
No, I mean, I don't think that this is a sign of each side or both sides together beginning to move up the ladder of escalation. I haven't heard about or read about any increase in readiness. The United States is not in the midst of raising its nuclear alert level, nor are the Russians doing that. But this kind of talk, the nuclear saber rattling, is worrying. It's not new for the Russians. It is new for the United States, because throughout the Ukraine war, Putin and other Russian leaders have said, hey, be careful. We have nuclear weapons in our quiver. And at several times during the war, the Russians have actually carried out nuclear exercises and transferred tactical nuclear weapons to Belarus, moving them closer to NATO territory. But I see this largely as posturing, catering to domestic audiences, and not a sign that we're looking at a real increase in the possibility of war between the United States and Russia.
I take the opposite approach. I absolutely do think that this is bringing us closer and closer to the possibility of war with Russia. For some reason, there's this saying that people like to have, taco, right, about Trump, mostly around tariffs. Trump always chickens out. And that is being proven to be wrong. Very much. I mean, that's what Canada said. No way. Trump is going to chicken out. He always does. We're not going to get hit with 35% tariffs. And then we got hit with 35% tariffs. Now, I know I'm comparing tariffs to nuclear war, but this whole taco thing where people think they've got Trump all figured out, that he always chickens out. Yeah, no, you don't have him figured out. That's the whole thing about Trump, is he's just when you think you've got him figured out, turns out that you don't. And when you're dealing with nuclear war and you're dealing with, actual threats, I mean, America has positioned themselves to be the world leader, right? The police of the entire world, the dominator of the entire globe. And I would prefer it to be that way and to remain that way. That's just me, though. I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. And now in Canadian news, we got to take a look at Canada Post and how they are pretty much about to go bye-bye. They have just rejected another proposal from the Crown.
Right now to the latest on the Canada Post labor dispute. Unionized postal workers have rejected the Crown Corporation's final offer. This comes after 18 months of back and forth negotiations. CTV's Natalie Van Woy joins us live in studio with more. Natalie.
Kimberly, Canada Post's final offer was shot down by its workers yesterday. Around 68.5% of urban mail carriers from the Canadian Union of Postal Workers voted against the deal. And there were similar numbers in the suburbs, with around 69% voting against it. Now, the offer that was on the table included wage hikes of about 13% over 4 years. Canada Post said the offer reflected the company's current realities while protecting items that are important to employees. The union urged its 55,000 members to reject the proposal, stating that it's time for Canada Post to come back to the bargaining table. Meanwhile, the Crown Corporation said its operating losses amounted to $10 million a day in June.
Canada Post is a really important service for many small business owners. It's probably one of the Canada Post's most important customers, because they still heavily use Canada Post for many different reasons. However, given all the uncertainty we've seen over the last year, strike again, maybe strike, maybe not striking, whatever, this has become much more difficult for as a service to be relied on. So many small businesses have been starting to turn away from Canada Post.
The Canadian Federation of Independent Business president is calling on the federal government to extend the current agreement to prevent another strike from happening. The vote opened on July 21st and was administered by the Canada Industrial Relations Board. Now, this has dragged on for months, with Canada Post and the union at odds for more than a year and a half. And it was only last holiday season that the postal workers went on strike and left many offices closed with parcels undelivered. Kimberly.
CTV's Natalie Van Woy reporting live for us tonight.
I mean, they're done. They're absolutely done. There is no way that Canada Post can continue to survive for the next several years. I mean, they just keep going on strike after strike after strike. And look, I get it. Like, I'm not saying they should settle for a wage or a deal that's not in their best interest, but it's just the fact that it's a reoccurring strike and there's all these, interruptions. People are just fed up with it, and it is subsidized. It does lose $1 billion plus per year, as we've seen from reports. And I just kind of want to pass a question off to you. How do you feel about this? Do you think that a separate postal organization would come in and, scoop up everybody? Let me know what you guys think. Now we got to take a look at polling, because this is getting pretty interesting. So if Mark Carney can recognize Palestine as an independent country, then President Trump can also and should recognize Alberta as well as its own independent country. And then we got to take a look here at what Mark Carney recently said about Europe.
We are going to build trading relationships with like-minded partners, reliable partners, partners that are aligned with our values. It begins here. We are going to build trading relations.
Okay, so this is very important, because when you're looking at the future of Canada, it seems like not only our prime minister, but a lot of other people also seem to want to switch to European Union, which is very, very bizarre. Let's have a look here. New polling data came out. Should Canada seriously consider initiating a formal process to join the European Union? Whoever was surveyed, 46% of people said yes, and only 38% of people said no. Alberta, is it time to separate? Do y'all want to become part of the European Union? And so that was just like a general consensus poll. If we zoom in at specific party supporter polling about the European Union, this is where it gets very bizarre. So apparently this is from Polling Canada, where I've just kind of copied the data and pasted it into my own post here. More troubling numbers. According to a recent poll, almost half of the Conservative supporters want Canada to seriously consider joining the European Union. Among Conservatives, 45% said yes and 43% said no. This is data straight from Polling Canada. Do you support this? Will the CPC advocate for us joining the European Union? Now, I was never contacted for this, and chances are you were never contacted from this. So take that with, a grain of salt. But again, our polling for the federal election showed that there was a complete reversal, that Pierre was tanking and Carney was winning, and it turned out to be true. So how accurate are these, polling data stuff? I don't really know, but there does seem to be this ongoing sentiment that we should be a part of the European Union. And to that, I will absolutely put my feet firm in the sand and say, no, I don't think so at all. We should absolutely consider more of an economic merger with America. Think about it. Your dollar, a dollar for dollar trade. Every Canadian dollar you have, immediately switch to American dollars. Our food prices would come down. Our price of gas would come down. Housing prices would come down. I mean, everything would be cheaper. We would have more options, more capitalism. It'd be phenomenal to experience that. Joint military bases, Canada and America. We actually do have a little bit to offer when it comes to that stuff. And it would be awesome to see what America can bring to the table too. Joint it together, and we'd be this biggest country with landmass ever in the entire world. It would be freaking phenomenal. But that's my opinion, folks. I would love to know yours. And by the way, the economic merger doesn't necessarily have to mean 51st state. We can join our economies by still continuing to maintain our sovereignty, whatever the hell that means. I don't even know what the whole, we got to protect Canada's sovereignty even means anymore, because what exactly are we protecting? A maple leaf, a beaver, a moose? Whatever. If you want to keep that, sure. Yeah, we can keep our little monopoly money. Or we could also, try to discuss about an economic merger. Doesn't even have to be the 51st state, although there would probably be a whole lot of perks to that. But a proper economic merger between Canada and America would be just chef's kiss, beautiful. I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Next up, we're going to take a look at what's going on with evacuation orders for nearly 400 properties on Vancouver Island, which is crazy because this is where I'm at. I'm on Vancouver Island right now, and there's wildfires that are just plaguing the island.
Vancouver Island is forcing hundreds of people out of their homes. It's burning between Port Alberni and Nanaimo. Hundreds more have been warned to be ready to leave at a moment's notice. CBC's Tricia Kindleman reports.
There were 45 new starts just yesterday, and that has led, as you mentioned, Natasha, part of that has led to this evacuation order for the Wesley Ridge wildfire. So you can see here the location of the fire sort of in between Port Alberni and Nanaimo. It's about 60 kilometers northwest of the community of Nanaimo. So no reports of any houses or anything lost yet. We have another map that kind of gives you a sense of just how much the community is being impacted, how close it is. So you can see that red line along the body of water there, and then that red patch in the middle. That's all the current evacuation order. So there's about 400 properties in there, as well as a provincial park that has been cleared out at this point. That sort of yellowy orange area around there is those remaining evacuation alerts. And there's about 230 or so properties that are covered by that alert, and they could have to leave at a moment's notice. Again, it's been a really, really active wildfire. This fire just started on the 31st, which I believe was Friday, Thursday, and then by Saturday they were already out of their homes. So it's been a really quick moving one. The residents have talked about how stressful it's been. Here's what we heard from them.
The guys are on the floor here doing the best they can, and us as community members, we are ready to stand by the fire department and fight the fire if necessary. But
I think this is bigger than the one that had a couple years ago. That's a big fire.
I agree with him on that one for sure. This one is threatening our community a lot more than the other one being across the lake.
So while at this point no houses have been lost, we have heard from the BC Wildfire Service that they did lose some firefighting equipment and railway trestles in the area in that blaze, but they noted that staff and crews had already been tactically withdrawn from the area, so no one was injured by that. In all, there are 5 evacuation orders in place around BC, including around that community of Lytton, which had a devastating wildfire move through there in 2021. Right across the country, though, a really, really active forest fire season.
That's brutal, man. That's so close to the old growth forests on Vancouver Island, trees that are, hundreds of years old, if not thousands of years old. And hopefully it can be contained, because Vancouver Island, I mean, if that spreads like craziness, it would be an absolute nightmare to try to evacuate a bunch of people from the island. There is no bridge off of the island. There is only planes, no trains, and a ferry, which is always very congested and a nightmare to deal with. So again, hopefully our firefighters and first responders can deal with the situation accordingly. I'm sure everybody is busting their ass and doing a phenomenal job. I just hope that it can stay somewhat under control. Next up, we've got to take a look here at, America's coverage of Canada and America with the trade war. Let's take a look.
An executive order signed by Trump late on Thursday outlined tariff rates for 69 countries, including several changes from the rates that were announced back in April on Liberation Day. Smaller countries like Lesotho and Guyana were originally hit with massive tariffs because they're poor countries that sell more to America than they buy, and as a result have large trade deficits with America. Those tariff rates have been cut. The day before, Wednesday, Trump also jacked up tariffs on Brazil to 50% for what he's calling the political persecution of former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro, who's on trial for attempting a coup in 2022. Trump calls that trial a witch hunt. And forget a deal with one of America's oldest and biggest trading partners, Canada. The White House is upping the ante on our neighbor to the north, announcing a 35% tariff on Canadian goods, up from 25%. Now, this is on the goods that are not included in the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement, the thing that used to be NAFTA that Trump himself renegotiated. Plus, on Wednesday, the Commerce Department said that gross domestic product, GDP, which is the largest measure of economic activity we have, increased at a 3% annual rate in the second quarter, the second 3 months of this year. Now, lots and lots of journalists jumped on that exciting top-line number, one that seems far more impressive than the first quarter's GDP increase, which was just 0.5%. But if some of those journalists had taken about 45 seconds to look under that shiny hood, they'd have found a far less impressive rebound than it initially seemed.
It does suck that you do have this trade war going on, because we're America's biggest customer and they're our biggest customer. It's been, a pretty good thing that we've had going for quite some time. But obviously America wants to shift in a more aggressive stance for global dominance, right? There is a power shift happening right now. The biggest wealth transfer we've ever seen is now being handed down, and everything seems to be going crazy digital, like cryptocurrency. And the world is changing, right? China becoming a bit more of a superpower, Russia trying to chime in on that too. And so we just kind of have to look at the bigger picture things, which I am on the side of, a more intertwined economy with America. But again, I can't be more clear about my stance. Then CBC's coverage of this saying Trump didn't chicken out. So what's next for Canada? Again, brings me back to the whole taco thing. People are always under the impression that Trump does this taco. Trump always chickens out. He didn't. So now Canadian media is spinning their heads going, what the hell happened? We didn't see this coming.
But you were in most, if not all, of the meetings with Donald Trump. So if anyone in this country knows what the current government is dealing with, it is you. And I want to sort of start there. What do you make of what's happened over the last 24 hours?
Well, good to be here, Katie. We are at a point that in Donald Trump's unpredictable world is fairly predictable. Deadlines get set, we get to this point, we find ourselves in chaos, and we're in the moment right now. We don't know what the next few days will bring, and we're just going to have to take things hour by hour.
If you were in the Prime Minister's office right now, what would be your main priority right now in this moment?
Talking to officials, political leaders, obviously the Prime Minister, but also engaging outside with premiers, with stakeholders, and getting all the advice we can get on what move to make next. And I'm sure that's happening right now in Mark Carney's PMO. They've got to think now, what do they go back to the Americans with? Do they make another offer? Do they retaliate? Do they do both? And I think it's a good thing that officials and Dominic LeBlanc are staying in D.C. They're going to try to keep talking and try to sort this out.
So right now, Canada has been isolated.
Dominic LeBlanc was in D.C. for 3 days and not a single American official went to meet him. What the hell are we doing for paying for his accommodations, paying for his food, paying for travel expenses, and his salary for him to be on vacation in Washington, D.C. under the guise of working when no one has even met him for 3 freaking days? This is absurd. Absurd. We're wasting money and wasting time.
On the world stage. All of these increased tariffs or new tariffs that are coming into effect, Canada is the only one that is seeing a new tariff that kicks in today. Even Mexico was able to reach some sort of agreement where they'll continue negotiating for another 90 days. Why is Donald Trump making an example of Canada?
I think it's 2 things. One, clearly he's bothered by Canada standing up for itself and retaliating. And I will make a note here. It is disappointing that only 2 countries, Canada and China, did stand up to this president, and it's part of the reason we're in the problem we're in right now. Other countries, the EU, Mexico, Japan, did not choose.
Yeah, see, again, this is the problem with our country. This guy views it a problem that only China and Canada, ironically enough, stood up to Trump with the tariffs. He views that as a problem from the side of the perspective of it's a problem that not more countries stood up to Trump. Whereas everyone else who's on the common sense side views it a problem that Canada even stood up to America in the first place alongside China. Like, it's just so poetically borderline retarded that this is going on. China of all countries, China, like our enemy, our foreign interference enemy. We are not supposed to like China. We're not supposed to be attached to China at all. We're not supposed to really get along with China. Yet here we are standing up to Trump with China. Like, it's so freaking weird. This bizarro situation that we're in. That should have been the red alerts right there, the red flags. Oh, China's standing up to Trump. Ooh, yeah, we don't want to be like them. Let's go the opposite way. Oh, everyone else isn't standing up to Trump in America. Oh, and they're getting better deals. Oh, maybe we should do that. But no, for some reason, we think that we have negotiating power. Like, it's so freaking absurd. I understand we're America's biggest customer and blah, 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 blah. But again, we are $3 trillion market cap for our country, GDP. And America is over 30 trillion. They're over 10 times bigger than us. Minimum.
to retaliate, did not choose to stand up to this president. And I think the world made a mistake a few months ago by making that choice. So right now, Donald Trump is in a position where he can pick on Canada, make an example of us, and send a message to every other country. It's notable that the increased tariff hits Canada today, whereas every other country gets an increased tariff on August 7th. I think he's using us to send a message to the rest of the world: don't retaliate, or else we'll treat you like we're treating Canada. And I think in this moment, and we're seeing it, and I have full confidence in the Prime Minister and his team, we've got to stand up strong and not feel bullied by this.
Do you think that when Prime Minister Justin
we can be on the winning side of this? That's the piece that I just don't understand, that these people don't understand. We can be on the winning side. We can make more money than ever. We can have better lives, cheaper cost of living than we ever seen before. I'm not even talking about the 51st state aspect, just a more intertwined economy. Yet they were refusing because Canada has this elitist mentality that, oh my goodness, we are so proud not to be American. It's the most bizarre outlook, this weird elitist bullshit that has been programmed into Canadians. It's just so freaking sad to see.
Trudeau first made that announcement that Canada would retaliate. And we know that during the NAFTA negotiations, when Donald Trump imposed certain sectoral tariffs back during that negotiation process, Canada did stand up. Canada did impose retaliatory tariffs, so that when these new tariffs were threatened, I don't think it was a surprise to the Canadian people that Canada would fight back and would put those new tariffs on, retaliatory tariffs on. But in hindsight, seeing how Donald Trump is behaving now and really punishing countries that stand up, was it a mistake for Justin Trudeau to put those retaliatory tariffs on in the first place?
No, and it was the right thing to do in the first term. It worked. It got the U.S. president to back off. It was the right thing to do earlier this year, and frankly, it achieved some success earlier this year. It got the president to, despite his threats, back off the worst of his threats and exempt the vast majority of Canada-U.S. trade. That said, right now, it's a very interesting choice for the Prime Minister and his team. Do they stick to what they said they would do in a situation like this, which is increase retaliation? I have been a big fan of retaliation, as I'm making clear right now. I think there has been a political consensus in the country that retaliation is a good move, but I do think they need to stop and consider.
Look at this little cuck smiling. Yeah, we should retaliate. We absolutely should. That costs you money. That costs me money. That makes our lives more miserable, right? And this freaking liberal cuck going, yeah, let's retaliate. Yeah, let's do it. The implications of retaliating against American tariffs is what we're seeing right now. More tariffs hit on us. We're paying more money. You want to know why? Because all the people that are affected, their jobs lost, all the companies that are laying people off because they can't just bear the cost of the tariffs, the extra cost. Our government is now subsidizing all of that. So our government's paying hundreds of millions of dollars, just like COVID, right? They're giving all that handout money for our own mistakes. We're literally punching ourselves in the dick and then going, we need an ice pack. It's freaking weird. Oh my goodness, man. There's people like that. He's smiling. He's seething. He's foaming at the mouth. Yeah. Let's retaliate. Yeah. Like, what the hell's the matter with you?
Whether to further retaliate right now, given Canada is standing on its own and the rest of the world is not standing with us.
People like this don't give a shit about you. They don't give a shit about this land. They don't give a shit about this country. They don't give a shit about the people. They don't give a shit about anything. High wage little beta cuck thinking that we should absolutely be retaliating. It's just so freaking idiotic and it pisses me off.
I wonder what you make of the fact that in this moment, Canada, which is the closest ally of the United States, the integration when it comes to trade, the economy, national security, all of these kinds of things, and for so long, this relationship has been so friendly. Goodness. What do you make of the fact that right now Donald Trump is making the example of Canada?
I think this is Donald Trump, and I'm a believer that the Canada.
Okay, like what a freaking stupid answer. I'll tell you exactly why this is happening. And liberals, media, I would gladly go on any of these shitty shows like CBC and explain this to the freaking country. There's a shift happening in the world. China is trying to take over. They're trying to take over Taiwan. They're trying to take over other parts of the world. Russia is trying to expand their landmass. Other enemy countries are trying to grow. Islam is like plaguing the world, is taking over, man. So what the hell are we going to do? Are we going to continue to allow invasions of our own territories, our own culture? Okay, well, no, we should definitely stop that. We should stop immigration for the next little while, and we should focus on building within. But also, if other countries are growing their landmass and growing their weapons, their capabilities, their economies to be more superpowers, this isn't the kumbaya land that people and liberals think that we live in. This is the game of life, of risk, of war. Countries grow, and on the opposite side, countries shrink because other countries are growing. So what the hell are we going to do here in the West? Canada can't stand a fight against anybody or anything right now. So we can be on the winning side, and we can be more intertwined with America. And then we could win. We would be the superpower of the freaking globe infinity. It would be insane. All the high-tech businesses taking place in America, all their growth, all their machinery, all the industrial stuff that they do, that could all just silently, just little bit by little bit, shift over into Canada. We'd have more jobs, we'd have more growth, we'd have more money, cheaper cost of living, and we would never have to fear about war because we would be more intertwined with America. Joint military bases. Other countries grow, other countries collapse. Look at the history of the globe, right? It's changed over time, and it will change down the road. So do we want Canada to just be eradicated off the map and be some Muslim country, or be waving a Chinese flag or a Russian flag at some point? Or would you rather wave a Canadian or American flag and hold on to that? Hold on to our land, our culture, our people. It's that freaking simple. The fact that these idiots with suits and ties on these talk shows on CBC or national television can't even say that. It's ridiculous. There is a real threat out there. And the threat is the lack of understanding the incompetence or the neglect of the real dangers of our enemies. That's it. America is not our enemy. Liberals who refuse to see the bigger picture, they are seemingly our enemy. I don't know. It's just getting absolutely ridiculous. That's my opinion, though. I'm out of breath from that rant. Love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Remember, supporting sponsors of the channel is also a way of supporting the channel. Bye for now.